I think the people of India would like to know as to what are we trying to do. We have set up a foundation and a think tank in 1992. It's called iWatch. Now, why did we set it up? We set it up for a number of reasons, but basically there are three important reasons. Number one, my life, my working life, my life as a student, my experiences as a businessman traveling all over the world, my knowledge of what is happening in the world, all this shaped in 1992 a decision of mine to start my foundation and think tank called iWatch. Now, iWatch is a think tank and foundation which looks at macro issues of the country. We don't talk about the problems, we only talk about the solutions. We only talk about suggestions which we can offer to the civil society, suggestions which we can offer to the government of India. We don't work with state governments, we work only with the central government, knowing fully well that if any policy has to be changed, it's only if the central government makes a change, then it will permeate automatically into the various union territories and states of the country. So, knowing this point and this aspect, we decided to focus only on the central government and the civil society as such. We took up hot subjects. We started with governance in 92, good governance, which triggered areas like corruption and black money. Later on, we migrated to education because we realized that you cannot have good governance because people are not educated. So, we went into education in 1997. It was a Pandora's box. Everything was wrong about education, which I will speak later. Then later on, we started getting lot of letters from the politicians about employment. So, we started working on employment, and that triggered off automatically skill building. Being a businessman and having set up 2 companies of my own in the stock exchange, I looked at the economy and issues affecting business. Of course, iWatch then diversified into other peripheral subjects which are listed in our handbook for transforming India. So, the reason, but one of the major reasons which really triggered my thought process of starting this foundation were my visits to Germany and Japan, both of which were destroyed in the Second World War, both of which are hardly 10% the size of India, both of which have no energy, they import their energy, they have no mineral wealth, and they have no other basic raw materials. And after the World War, the Allies took away all their know-how, their scientists, their machinery, their drawings, what we call IPR today. In spite of that, they became the second and third largest economies of the world. I am not looking at China right now. So, naturally the thought process came to my mind as to how did they do it. And since I was traveling so often to Germany from 63 and Japan from 71, I found out that the secret was human resource development, which actually boils down to education, school education, pre-primary education, higher education, and then skill building, entrepreneurship. So, we then started diversifying into those areas. And actually, if you have good governance and if you have a highly motivated and educated manpower, nothing can stop the country from being the most progressive and happiest place on earth. I will read out from my visiting card. We work on black money, we work on corruption, we work on the Indian economy, we work on education, all aspects of education, we work on entrepreneurs and entrepreneurship, we work on employment, we work on good governance, we work on labor reforms, we work on micro, small, medium enterprises, we work on agriculture with special emphasis on organic farming, we work on skills, we work on vocational training, which is another name for skills, and we work also on peripheral issues like population control and how to increase India's tax base, which is today very low. Hardly 4% of the people of India pay tax. We have given a proposal to the government how this tax base can be increased to 20%. It can be done within 1 year. The reason being that the Jan Dhan Yojana was able to capture 300 million new accounts in less than 3 years, and these were accounts of unknown people. So there is no reason why we cannot catalog and find out how our small and medium businesses are scattered all over India, because most of them are proprietary companies, and most of them, if they are not proprietary, they are partnerships. Now, proprietary and partnership companies are not catalogued by the Ministry of Finance. They only catalog and register public limited and private limited companies. And for people who may not know, public and private limited companies constitute less than 0.5% of the total businesses in India. People who are like photographers, who are proprietors, nobody knows who they are in this country. Now, having worked in the European Union and Japan for so many years, 20 years, every business is catalogued. Even a one-man show is catalogued. So, supposing you want to know who are the photographers in India, you don't know. But if you want to know who are the photographers in the 37 European countries, you can get a printout within 5 minutes. And they then form associations. They then try to see how to improve their lot, so on and so forth. Now, all these reforms are areas on which we are working, just to give you a glimpse. But right now, 2 anecdotes come to my mind, which I thought I would like the listeners to know. One is in 2007, when I was invited by the government of South Korea, the Economic Times South Korea, and the Ministry of Education South Korea, to chair a session on vocational training for developing countries. It was a huge affair, 1200 people from 50 countries. There were only 2 Indians. I was one of them, and one was Professor Anand, who was IIT director. I was chairing a session, he was speaking on higher education. What really surprised me was the fact that the entire 2-day function started off with the Deputy Prime Minister of Korea kick-starting the whole process. My experience shows, from what I remember, and indicates to me that no Prime Minister or Deputy Prime Minister ever came to a HR conference. So I went up and paid my respects and asked him, "Sir, so nice to see a Deputy Prime Minister of a country coming to inaugurate this 2-day conference." He says, "I think you don't know my country. My only job is human resource development. I look after education and I look after skill building. All human resource, all human assets are under my control. All ministers in South Korea report to me. If I want 500 schools, I tell the finance minister I want money. If he doesn't give me the money, I sack him. I am the Deputy Prime Minister of South Korea." He says people in the world do not know that up to 25% of our budgets in the earlier years we used to spend on education. They also do not know, or at least the people in India do not know, that 50 years ago the Koreans were poorer than the Indians. But today an average Korean earns $35,000 a year, while an average Indian earns $1,500, and the reason is education and skills. So this was one anecdote which really stuck to me. The other one was closer to home in 2008-09, when Professor C.K. Prahlad and the Boston Consulting Group and CII requested him to make a roadmap for India, which he did. It was called India at 75. That means where should India be when it is celebrating its 75th birthday of independence? It will be 2022. I was fortunately in the committee. By default I came in, because Professor C.K. Prahlad was presented by CII a list of 86 national committees, and he said, I am not interested in this list. It is, these people cannot make any change. There was direct tax, indirect tax, service tax, corporate tax, everything to do with money, how to banking and things like that. He said these committees cannot make a change. He only tick marked 3 committees in that list of 86. One was education, one was skill building, and one was youth. I was in 2 of those 3 committees in the National Committee of CII. So I was thrilled, and I naturally became a part of his team. And I was thrilled that the work that iWatch was doing since 92 was in the right direction. And Professor C.K. Prahlad, who unfortunately passed away 3 years ago, made a very important suggestion to the government that if you want to see this country go anywhere, you have to concentrate on skills and education. So that only reinforced that the work we were doing was in the right path. Thanks.